on Tuesday in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, as we all know, 1,800 people inside to hear President Barack Obama at his town hall meeting talk about his health care reform. And a number of questions that were asked of him. A lot of people have been, the criticism has been that some of these questions were too soft, that nobody really kind of stuck it to the president. When you think about the scenes that we have seen on the nightly news of some pushing and shoving and, you know, people screaming, you know, read the bill at some of the senators who are out there trying to defend the president's health care reform bill. Now, there were 1,000 people outside on the streets in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and that's where Noah Bombard was from the Eagle Tribune. Noah, what was that like?
It was pretty crowded. You know, I think it was relatively tame. I mean, nobody was carted off, nobody was tasered or anything like that. Certainly a lot of verbal sparring going back and forth. A lot of people very passionate, very angry in a lot of cases. But overall, I think everyone walked away thinking it was, you know, a pretty mild event compared to what's happened at other places.
Exactly. What we sort of expected was that New Hampshire was going to be ground zero for all of these forces to come, and you were going to have the buses, you know, with the union guys getting off, and they were going to come walking out there. You're going to have the guys from the Tea Party were going to be manning the barricades, and what was going to happen when the two forces met? That didn't happen.
It didn't, although there was a lot of talk about that there, a lot of kind of taunts going back and forth, and certainly there was a lot of theatrics to it as well. I mean, there was a certain, I think, circus element, if you will, on both sides, really. You know, there was a group there called the Leftist Marching Band that was playing tunes, and and another group from Lyndon LaRouche's side there that had you know, pictures of Obama, you know, looking like Hitler, and they were singing something in German, man. You know.
Yeah,
and, it was just it was a little bit odd, some of the stuff happening there. But there were also people there who I think you know, were not so much on the extreme parts, and were there just kind of to voice their opinion.
Was anybody actually talking about health care and health care reform, or were they just there for the show?
There were actually a few people, and it's difficult to find because, you know, as a journalist, you go to those things, and we were shooting video, and you know, certainly the circus elements, they're hard to ignore because they're right in your face. But we found as you started to probe into the crowd more, and you started to find the people kind of on the peripheral, there was some talk. You know, whether or not anyone is actually listening to other people, I think, is a good question. But we did find some people talking.
Now, the people who are out there, this 1,000+ strong, they, it sounds to me, have probably made up their minds. The people who haven't made up their minds are probably the folks who are watching at home on TV.
I think so. And this is, I think, one of the things that kind of, I guess, disturbs me a little bit when I see these things is, you know, some of the extreme elements there. You wonder, it's like, are they doing their side any service, you know, on both sides, really, because you have those elements on both sides. And there are people watching, there are people listening, asking questions, and whether or not they're getting the real answers, I think sometimes they have to delve a little deeper than just the people who are shouting the loudest.
Well, you're right about that, and you know, obviously, when you have the picture of Obama as Hitler, all right, I mean that's so far over the line that you can't even take it seriously. That just does become a freak show, a sideshow. But when you're carrying the sign that says, you know, Mr. President, don't unplug my grandma. To me, you know, some of the problem with that is then the president is able to go in and not really have to deal with a serious question because he's able to kind of say, I'm here to tell you, listen, I'm against unplugging your grandma. And we all go, well, of course you are.
Yeah.
But there is some serious questions underneath some of that rhetoric and some of those signs that are being held.
There are, and we found a few people that were kind of on the sidelines who, you know, who weren't, you know, throwing back and forth those kind of extremist slogans, who were asking, you know, real questions. And I think the issue is, are their questions getting heard, and are they finding answers? As one guy told me, he said, you know, he's like, I'm standing here, I'm seeing people, you know, throwing comments back and forth. He's like, this really isn't a simple issue. It's not, it can't be condensed into a little one-liner or a slogan.
Right.
And you know, I think there are a lot of misconceptions about each other side. You know, there was one guy kind of screaming over the other side, you know, you want health insurance, go get a job, you know, or go back, you know, leave our country. And, you know, I look over at the other side, and they all look pretty gainfully employed and probably legal. So I'm not really sure that
where some of those misconceptions are coming from. As you went and covered this, and we can see the video that is up on the website
it's up on EagleTribune.com, right on the home page. If you scroll down, there's a little link there for the video.
Right. I mean, what was you as a journalist? What did you kind of want to bring us and show us with that video? Just a real slice, almost cinema verite, or what were you looking for?
It's an interesting question, because I think that's one of the difficult things about covering an event like that, is that there are two ways to cover it. One is, there are those kind of ridiculous elements that are in your face, and if you really want to showcase what happened at that event, who was there, you kind of have to turn your attention to them a little bit. But it also takes some responsibility, I think, and we do this in our video as you go along. We delve a little bit deeper and do seek out those people who aren't quite on the fringe, and can give a little more of a in-depth analysis or look at the whole issue.
Right. Noah, as you spoke to people, I mean, what did you kind of come away with? Democracy in action? Was it completely orchestrated? Because both sides now are making these charges that each side is just bussing in their people, the people who feel one way or another about the issue, and that real citizens aren't actually even being heard. Well,
I hear that a lot, and I think there were some buses, there were some people that came in like that. But I think the bottom line is these aren't cardboard cutouts. These are all real people on both sides who are really passionate about this. And do they mobilize? Sure, of course they do. But I think both sides are mobilizing, and I think that was pretty obvious from there. And there was a lot of people there as well who didn't come on a bus, who just kind of showed up because they wanted to be part of it.
It's funny, some people have been writing, and I've seen some in blogs and some on editorial pages about, woe is us, and this is so uncivil, and what is happening with these arguments. And all I can think of is, you know what? I bet if we hopped in the Wayback Machine and it was 1775, or it was Jefferson versus Adams, or some of the things, this would be tame. Our founding fathers would take a look at this and say, "Ha! You guys don't know how to yell and scream at one another."
And there was a lot of the flag waving and kind of harking back to the beginning of the country, but fortunately, unlike the Boston Massacre, it didn't end with people being shot and dragged off, or any mobs beating each other. So I think I have a degree in history, and I always look at these things from those lenses, and I think the start of our country was a lot bloodier than and a lot more violent than we are today.